The meeting of the Metropolitan Policy Committee. We may have to have some adjustments to our agenda, so I call this meeting to order. Let's look at the first item. We have some introductions if we'd like to. Everyone's here, knows everyone else. Is anyone new to the panel that we should know of and introduce? Okay, you guys are a talkative bunch. I appreciate that about you today. Thank you very much. So let's move on to the adjustments of the agenda. The chair would like to move the approval of the minutes toward the end of the meeting. Let's move that after item 7.
You now have a quorum.
Okay, let's retract that statement. The chair was never here. He's now checking back in. So the adjustments to the agenda, I don't see any announcements from the MPC members. Again, a talkative crew. All right, any comments from the audience? Do we have anyone willing to do public testimony online that you know of, Brenda?
Are you aware of anyone who would like to?
I'm not aware of anyone.
There are people in the attendee list. There's only one that I do not recognize the name of.
Someone else just joined.
Yeah, if you raise your hand to let us know if you would like to speak, that would be helpful. I think we're okay.
Okay, seeing no hands, let's move on. Any comments from the audience? We did that. Okay, would like to approve the minutes of May 2nd. I'm hoping everyone had a chance to review the minutes, and I'm looking for a motion.
I'll make a motion to approve the minutes of May 2nd.
Second.
All right, I've got a motion to approve the minutes from Councilor Moe and a second from Councilor Groves. Would like to take a vote. All those in favor, say aye or indicate with a thumb.
Aye.
Anyone opposed? Passes unanimously. Thank you very much. Let's move on to the Lane District LTD system review. There's a draft service recommendation. It's an interesting draft, and I understand we've got a change in presenters. I understand, Dave, you're going to take the place of Jeremy today. Are you with us? I have not seen you yet.
I'm with you.
All right, there you are. All right, Dave, good deal. You're set to go. Anytime you want to go, you go ahead. Thank you, sir.
All right, thanks. And I should mention that I think Jeremy is in attendance. He might be on the attendees list, but oh, there he is. He's on the panelists. So I am filling in on the presentation for Jeremy, but I might turn to him if we have any questions because he's a bit more knowledgeable about the project than I am. By way of introduction, my name is Dave Roth. I am relatively new at LTD. I'm the new Director of Mobility Planning and Policy. And it's good to be in front of the MPC today, so nice to meet you all. I haven't met you yet. I'm going to go ahead and share my screen. Let's see here. There we go. And we'll jump right into this presentation. Can everyone see this okay? Full screen. All right. Okay, so I'm going to be presenting on the system review or the comprehensive operations analysis that we've been working on for the past half year or so, a little more than a half year. And the way this presentation is set up, I'll go into kind of a quick review of the outreach that we've conducted, and I'm going to sort of breeze through that, and then I'll jump right into the service recommendations because I think that's where people probably are most interested in the content. So why are we doing a system review? Well, we're doing this project to develop a roadmap to build back service that was reduced at the beginning of the pandemic. And we're also looking to match our service levels to a changed travel market, changed travel demands and travel and mobility needs in the community. The data that we used to inform the study, we looked at ridership connections for every route. We conducted a travel pattern survey using cell phone data. We looked at population and employment data, socioeconomic data inputs, future growth projections and plans in the communities that we serve. And we also conducted a robust public engagement process that is still ongoing now with our second phase. The initial community engagement outreach that we conducted last winter into the spring, we have a project website. We did onboard surveys of our riders. We had a design your own system survey. Right now we have a service recommendation survey that's live, and I'll just ask everyone to please send folks to this website now. It'll be live through the end of the month. And we're accepting comments and feedback on our recommendations, which I'll get to momentarily here. And a number of other engagement activities along the way. Our onboard surveys that we conducted, we did over 2,400 of those. About 12% of our overall riders were surveyed, so fairly comprehensive outreach there. Our key findings of our existing riders: people want more frequency. That's the most desired improvement that we heard from folks. And half of the riders that we talked to make transfers on their day-to-day trips. In this activity that we did online, we had a budgeting exercise where people were able to allocate dollars to their biggest priorities. And there's a caveat to the response we heard here, which I'll highlight. The biggest improvement that people wanted to see was more frequency here as well, but just above that was bus stop improvements. And we think that bus stop improvements came out ahead simply because people had a little bit of money left over when they were allocating their budget, and they didn't want to throw money away, so they were putting that towards stop improvement. So we still feel like frequency was the number one thing that people wanted to see in this budgeting activity that we did. We did some outreach to the Latino community. We attended a Latino Professionals Connect networking event and conducted a number of focus groups in Spanish. And overall feedback was positive. We heard interest in better service on rural routes, better connections to LCC, passenger amenities and information interest. And we also heard that continued outreach with this population was important. All right, so this is just a glance at what the project website looks like right now. And again, a link to the survey that's live through the end of this month. And just another reminder, we want to direct people there to get as much feedback as we can on our recommendations. Now I'll get into our service scenarios. So we're looking at improvements to route frequency, reductions in route duplication, added weekend service, and extending service to new high-density growth areas in our communities. And just to note here that this project is not a full system redesign. This is really, again, to help us build back our service hours to meet the needs of the community and make some minor tweaks, not doing a full system redesign with this project. So we have two sets of recommendations. We have short-term and longer-term recommendations. So the short-term recommendations are improvements that we can make that don't require additional resources in terms of buses, significant changes in operating hours, or changes in the number of operators that we currently have. As we do bring on more operators, though, this is a big initiative of LTD right now, we will be able to implement these improvements earlier. So that is a key factor for us. Just a summary of the short-term recommendations. The top. Oh, sorry. Do you have a question?
Oh, no.
Okay. Adding frequency to our highest ridership routes. So that's MX and the Route 11 into Springfield. Creating high frequency corridors between Eugene Station and Santa Clara Station on River Road, on Coburg Road, and between Eugene Station, U of O, and 30th and Hilliard. These new high frequency service on these corridors can be accomplished simply by adjusting our schedule and timetables of buses. So not adding new service to those corridors necessarily, but just adjusting the timetable so that buses are coming by at least every 15 minutes. Our longer term recommendations ultimately is our goal to get back to pre-pandemic service levels. These require additional buses, operating hours, and operators. And so these are things that we're tracking towards, but it will take us a bit longer to accomplish. And these recommendations right now are inclusive of improving, expanding the number of high frequency corridors, and I'll show you a map of what that looks like later. Improving transit circulation in downtown Eugene, improving service to rural areas and routes, working with our local partners to develop a broader transportation network suite of options or mobility options, and then exploring capital improvements on some of our key corridors that can help improve bus travel time, reliability, and speed. So this is what today's 15-minute a weekday network looks like. In the short term, this is what we can accomplish simply by adjusting schedules, and you'll see the expansion areas that I mentioned already. So Coburg Road to Harlow Road, South Hilliard and Patterson and Eugene, and going out River Road. These are the short-term recommendations, again, that we can get to, we think, within a year or so with a phased rollout. Longer term, this is what the 15-minute frequent service network would look like. So you've got the addition of Centennial out towards Willow Creek, and then 99 out to the Barger area. So these are routes with frequency improvements. Again, as I mentioned already, the short term and the longer term routes. So now I'll go by route. And I think if people do have questions, feel free to interrupt me, or we can kind of go through this and have any questions and whatever your preference.
Actually, I do have a question for you.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah.
Sorry about that. Thanks for coming on and appreciate this. You say the short term, at least the length that you're looking for is about a year approximately, and that could be plus or minus. But for your long term, how far are you projecting that could possibly be out?
The longer term recommendations really are dependent on some of the resource factors I mentioned. So as we bring new operators on, we can roll out some of the longer term recommendations. But if you'll note, if I can go back to those that list here. So this is a whole host of longer term recommendations that are some are service related, that are simply reliant on things like operators or number of buses, but then some get into the capital project realm, and those of course take longer to develop. And one of the things that we're doing, I should mention here, is that we're embarking on a new long-range mobility plan, 20-year horizon plan for the district. And a lot of these longer-term recommendations will roll into that longer-term plan, and it will help get us set up so that they can ultimately get on to our community investment plan, or our CIP, for development. So long answer to your question, but it's sort of a range dependent on the specific recommendation.
Well, the beauty of it, that the thing that I really like, is the fact that you can aggregate your long-term recommendations so that it's not at one point everything rolls on. As you get opportunity, you can roll it out in aggregate forms, which would allow the population, if you will, to get some benefit out of it as you're able, as LTD is able to do portions of it. So I think that's a good path to go forward with.
Absolutely. Yeah. Okay, I'll jump back to the specific route recommendations. And again, Jeremy, if I get anything wrong here, please jump in and correct me. So starting with the short-term route changes. So Route 24 via Willamette Street between Eugene Station and 20th to improve travel times. There's a slight deviation here in the current routing that you can see on the little call out box, and the proposed change is just a slight rerouting that will allow us to improve travel times around the 34th and Donald area.
It would also allow the 24 to come into Eugene Station via Willamette, so it's a straight shot. We're not deviating off of Willamette at all.
Thanks, Jeremy. Route 28. This changes the alignment between U of O and Hilliard to be consistent with Route 81 and to avoid pedestrian, bicycle, auto interactions or conflicts around 15th and Alder. And that's the proposed change that, again, you see in this call out box to avoid those conflicts at 15. Jeremy, anything to add on this one?
Yeah, so this is one of those changes in schedules and alignments that allow for 15-minute service. So instead of having two separate routes that go to U of O on the same alignment, then leaving on different alignments, we will offset one of those routes so that they will both be on the same routing, Eugene Station, U of O, and then down Hilliard and Patterson to 30th. We'll alternate those schedules, so we'll have 15-minute service along Hilliard and Patterson and between the U of O and Eugene Station along 13th. This is one of those changes where we're just manipulating the schedules a little bit and the alignment on this one to get that 15-minute corridor instead of having buses traveling back to back down those streets.
All right, next is Route 36, serving West 18th, Willow Creek Road, and West 11th. The change here is to add the service further west to serve some of the new housing that's located out here. And again, Jeremy, anything to add on this one?
Just that they're adding, when those apartments are fully built out, there'll be an additional 700 units out there. So some of you may recall in the past, we used to run a 30 Bertelsen that did this routing when Hynix was in place. So there is a lot of industrial employment areas out there and high density employment or high density housing. So we'd like to push that out to a terminal loop, much the same as a 51 or 52, to provide access to those jobs and for that housing.
All right, then the 41. So this one proposes changing the alignment to use Bertelsen and First Avenue to serve more residents and jobs. You'll see on that the solid line, there's higher density of homes and jobs via Bertelsen. And the limited trip Green Hill deviation would not be restored because of low ridership and out of direction travel. Okay, short-term route changes for 40 and 51. This one is, again, one of those ones that creates the 15-minute weekday and 30-minute weekend service between Santa Clara and Eugene stations. Route 51 would follow Route 52's alignment between Santa Clara and Eugene. And Route 40 would replace 51 on West 1st and extend to downtown Eugene via Washington Street, West 3rd, Shelton, McMurphy, 4th, and Pearl and High. You can see those on the map there.
And actually, I'll jump in here real quick. So we actually, our trainers have been super busy, which is good news, training new operators. So we haven't had a chance to run a lot of these changed alignments until last week. So for the 40, we're unable to make the turn onto Washington from 3rd. So we've adjusted this alignment. The materials are going to be updated on the website shortly, but it's going to go up high to 5th and then 5th to Washington, which is already a turn we already make with the 51. Again, the reason for this change is we wanted to pick up that 51 service that would be potentially abandoned by putting it on the same alignment as 52, but we would still serve Railroad Boulevard. We'd get more service on 5th Street. And again, we achieve a 15-minute frequency, consistent frequency between Eugene Station and Santa Clara and remove the train delay on those two busy routes. So that's one of the main reasons for these changes. But again, the 40 has been changed back to Fifth Avenue to Washington. This slide doesn't reflect that change because it was submitted to folks earlier. Those website materials will be updated shortly, though.
Thanks, Jeremy. All right, the Route 52 receives a slight change in the routing here, and you'll see that reflected on the sort of bottom left of the screen. This change in the route allows buses to use a signalized intersection to execute their left turn onto Irving Road, reducing significant delay for buses there. Route 93 would no longer serve the Berthelsen First Seneca Loop and instead directly travel to downtown Eugene via West 11th. And between Berthelsen and downtown Eugene, operate in limited stop mode with pickups only in the westbound direction and drop-offs only in the eastbound direction. And Jeremy, I think this is the one we were talking about yesterday where the original idea for this route would have required a transfer. Is that right? And we're now allowing a full nonstop ride west. Is that correct?
Correct. So this route was adjusted when West Eugene MX went into place. We thought that it would help people make those transfers from MX. What we saw, on the other hand, was that ridership dropped as soon as we made this change because the transfers, even though we had 10-minute service on MX, it was still taking people longer to get downtown, and they were missing transfers at the downtown station. So we're bringing the 93 back to Eugene Station. Currently, it's the only rural route that does not serve Eugene Station directly. So the change would bring it back to Eugene Station and put it back into service as it was prior to West Eugene MX.
Great. Next up is the 98. And Jerry, I might ask you to lead us through the changes here since you're more.
Sure. Not a problem. So changes for the 98 and excuse me. I know the map looks a little funky, but currently on most trips, we take a right onto that connector, the Highway 99 connector, and go over the railroad tracks and get onto, is that North 9th, I think. The change would be to bring both inbound and outbound portions to Walmart. So the bus would travel from Crestwell to the Walmart. It would travel on, I believe that's Whitaker to Main Street, and then down to 10th, right on Taylor. And then instead of taking a right on 6th, we would continue to 4th Avenue and get to the light at the railroad tracks at 99. Part of this change was to eliminate that kind of V-shaped left turn, which was problematic for our buses. It did get us to a light, but we had troubles with the tracks and a short distance between the tracks and the intersection. So this alleviates that problem. It also provides two-way service on Main Street on all trips. The ridership on the 3 stops on that northern orange dotted line, the stop with the highest boardings, our busiest stop, is the one closest to Main Street anyway. So it didn't seem like that big of an impact, but this does give us two-way service on Main Street for, that main portion in the commercial area.
Thanks, Jeremy. And now we move into the longer term recommendations. And some of these, again, include or may require some capital project implementation to realize. Jeremy, I might ask you to walk us through these as well quickly because I'm not as familiar with them as you are.
Sure. I know this is a busy map, so I apologize for that. So what we have going on here is LTD has always had a desire to get off of parking lots, and Valley River Center, while it is a big, kind of a busy station, we do end up spending, 4 to 5 minutes traversing through a parking lot, which is not ideal for us. We would like to move the 66 and 67 onto Valley River Drive. Again, this would take some capital improvements to create stops. working with the property owner at the mall to see if we could get something similar to Gateway, a covered walkway for folks from Valley River Drive to the mall. In addition, we would remove the deviation. Currently, the 66, 67 travel on Chad, Crescent, and Shadow View, and they make a small deviation. Previously, several years back, we were just on Coburg Road. So we would move the 66 and 67 back to Coburg Road to save some runtime and to bring the runtimes back to within an hour so that we can prevent misconnections on our pole system. With that change, we would change the alignment of the 12 to serve Chad Drive in both directions in front of the VA clinic and the state offices, which would be helpful for folks. So it would travel Chad Drive to Coburg, back on Crescent, back to Shadow View, and then back on to Chad Drive, and back to Gateway. So we don't miss any stops except for with these changes, except for Valley River Center. But yeah, that's the extent of these changes.
Thanks, Jeremy. Next long-term change proposal would be to Route 40. And this one extends 40 to Santa Clara Station to provide better connectivity to commercial or residential growth happening along 99 and River Road. And you can see the extension on the map there. Route 13, extending to Walmart and Marcola Road to improve access to the new housing in Marcola Meadows. You can see the new loop out there. And then improvements to frequency to bring it up to 15 minutes, 15-minute headways. All right, so that's the summary of short and long-term recommendations as they sit now with the project. And we are collecting feedback through our second phase of outreach now through the end of June. And in addition to the website that I mentioned previously, we've conducted a number of open houses that Jeremy has hosted. And we're doing quite a bit of tabling at existing community events such as Saturday Market, Art Walk, Street Fair, the Better Transportation Fair that was held at the end of May, and First Friday's Communities of Color and Allies Network events. We are also offering up meetings with neighborhood and community organizations. And so we would welcome any additional suggestions you might have there. And again, looking to drive people to the survey. And so I think I'm just going to go to the next slide, and I see a hand raised, and we'll go to any questions or comments. So the next slide is just where we are right now. So we're wrapping up the second phase again on the recommendations that we've gone through today, and we'll revise and refine those through the feedback we receive, and then we'll look to bring this forward to the LTD board for an adoption process in the fall of this year. So with that, I'll stop sharing my screen.
Great job, Dave. Thanks. Matt, Councilor Mo, you got a question?
Yeah, can he go back two screens to the route that goes to North Springfield? I want to ask a question about that.
Is that in regards to the 13?
No, well, I don't know what the numbers are. That one there. Let me see. Can't read this thing. That route, okay, Walmart. I think there's another. Anyway, to me, all those do is feed downtown Eugene. And I'm a Springfield person, so I want to emphasize any routes we can do that will put people in downtown Springfield in and out. I know you're doing what you're doing, what you have to do, but that's what I see in things like that. You got down Eugene covered all the way. Of course, I know that's your central transit point, but still, in our city, I want to make sure we're represented properly. So
I'll just add that I would say that most of these service recommendations are things that we would be doing regardless. As we got new operators, we'd be increasing service. So one of the things we're looking at is adding trips on the 17 and 18 as we get more operators. We have heard that people want to get down to the station. On this loop right now, the 17 and 18 serve it in both directions, that both serve Springfield Station only. So there is service out there. We are looking to increase that to ensure that we're getting more service there in Springfield.
And I am aware of the dilemma. I mentioned it before, and that is bus drivers. It's hard to get bus drivers, and labor costs for bus drivers. Make sure you cut routes down and make them short. And I don't know how we can overcome that, but we need to find hopefully a solution to make that so we have more buses running. That's all.
Yep. LTD has been working hard on hiring operators, and we continue to do so.
I've been talking to Mr. Jameson about it.
All right. Is any other questions or comments concerning Jeremy and Dave's proposals? Very thought out, gentlemen. Looks like you did a lot of homework, so good job. Appreciate your time. And I understand that this would be adopted in the fall if everything flows through and is refined. Is that what I heard correctly?
That's right. Yep.
Okay, good deal. Good deal. Well, once again, government moves at the speed of lightning, doesn't it? All right, let's move on to item 6B, the bridge seismic resilience in Lane County. Rachel Dorfman from LCOG is going to be bringing that to us. I got to say, Rachel, before you start, this looked like a sure cure for insomnia, but I was really interested in a lot of the information here that I didn't know, especially the whole idea of scouring and that 80% of our bridges were over water. That was super interesting. So I'm looking forward to this report. So take it away whenever you're ready.
Thank you, Chair. I'm actually here to introduce Bert Hartman, who will be presenting on this today on behalf of ODOT. This agenda item is a follow-up to NPC's request a couple of months ago to hear more from ODOT about the bridge seismic resilience in the MPO area. So Bert Hartman is the Bridge Programs and Standards Manager. So I think Ellen has your slides up, Bert. So thank you so much. Take it away.
All right, thank you. Let's go to the next slide. So this is the state bridges, and this chart shows when the bridges were built and also their condition. Generally, you can look in the bridges in red or in poor condition. Those tend to be the older bridges. And then the bridges in good condition or in blue tend to be the newer bridges. Basically, the bottom line is if you want a bridge in good condition, you basically build new bridges. But what I really want to focus on is this interstate era decade. Late 1950s to early 1970s. You can see off to the left there the rate of bridge replacements, 60 bridges per year for about a decade. And it went up to sometimes 80, sometimes 90. We're replacing 2 or 3 bridges a year. So in about 30 years, that generation is going to be faced with this massive wave of bridges that need to get replaced or end of their service life. So just want to highlight that up in the next 30 years, we need to start replacing some bridges so that that future generation isn't all of a sudden faced with going from 2 or 3 bridge replacements per year up to 60. So that's one consideration. Next slide. Here's our ODOT bridge conditions over the last 10 years. It's fairly flat. The good condition bridges are slowly decreasing. The number of poor bridges is a fairly low rate, and we've been maintaining that primarily through the major bridge maintenance program, and that's where we can address just one element of a bridge that causes it to be in poor condition. That'll move it into the fair condition, but it's just, barely above poor condition. But that's where we're at. So we're doing good with poor bridges. Our concern is the population of fair bridges is increasing. and especially those bridges that are rated a 5, just above poor condition. As those continue to age, they will eventually spill down into that poor condition. Next. Here's an example of a timber bridge in poor condition, and it's on US 101. You can see the map over there on the right. And over the years, we've just one by one replaced a deteriorated timber support with steel. So this particular picture, that's probably fair condition because all the load path's been taken care of, but there's some other rotted piece of timber on this bridge. So if you're driving this bridge is in service, it's safe, but there's a limit to how much we can do replacing a bridge one piece at a time. Next. Here's our ODOT key performance measure. Its bridge is not in distressed condition. It's a measure of what we would spend money for, and you can see that in 2016, kind of a high point, and we're been on a gentle decline since then, and this is really magnified in to the 1/10%, but we're on a slow decline, just like the number of bridges on a slow decline. Okay. Can I have the next slide? Now we'll get into the seismic program. Here's a picture of the Abernathy Bridge on 205 under construction. They looks like they got the drill shaft steel there. So let's go to your next slide. So in 2014, ODOT did what's called a Seismic Plus report, and that was how can we address the seismic needs in Oregon? And it was a planning level study, and it was broken into 5 different phases. And these are 2014 dollars. And so we're looking at 5 phases, essentially $1 billion each with 2014 dollars. So now it's 2024. We can look back and say, you know, we didn't get that $1 billion of seismic funding for 2014. So let's see where we're at. So next slide. So the blue route is our priority 1 seismic route, and US 97 is our primary north-south route. And the north part of 97 is complete. We're working on projects on the from Oregon 58 down to the California border. So it's 97, it's going to be done pretty quick here. And then Oregon 58, that gets us from US 97 into the Willamette Valley. We've got 2 projects on that, and the first one is in construction. Second one's in design. And we've got some individual bridges that are in construction. We already mentioned Abernathy Bridge. We got the Van Buren in Corvallis, and we have the Center Street Bridge in Salem, which is currently under design. And then we knew we weren't going to get to the southern part of I-5 for many years. So we have what's called the Region 3 triage, and that was a combination of local routes and minor state highways that we can have in service before we get to the I-5 there. So you can see that Eugene and Springfield are in a pretty critical spot here because the Region 3 triage is basically ending in Eugene. The Oregon 58 is ending in Eugene. So that's basically where we're at right now. Let's go to the next slide. So now we have, what are we going to do from Eugene to Portland? And we had planned to just continue on I-5. But what that does, it gives us basically 2 bad choices. The bridges are 60 to 70 years old, and they've probably got another 30 years of service life in them, and are perfectly fine, except for seismic. So we got 2 choices. Well, the first bad choice is to replace a bridge with decades of service life in it. And the second bad choice is to put millions of dollars into a 60 or 70-year-old bridge and then replace it in 30 years. before we even got a seismically resilient route from Eugene to Portland, we'd be replacing some of the very bridges that we did a seismic retrofit on. So that is not a good approach. So we thought, what can we do from Eugene to Portland? And we looked at different options. We could have used different state highways, a combination of local roads. But let's go to the next slide. What we determined is we can just use basically 99, and that's going to 99W, and that's either the second or third seismic phase. If we do that, we have a lot less vulnerable bridges than I-5 has. We have local detours are available. So even as we're improving this route, we can still make use of it if we have the earthquake prior to having the route complete. And off to the right, you can see just a sample. This is in Monmouth. So we've got 5 vulnerable bridges on 99W, but we've got a local detour there. So what we can do is we can replace bridges based on condition. We'll replace them with a seismically resilient bridge. And slowly, we'll be able to get a good route from Eugene to Portland and have that hopefully in service by the time we start replacing bridges on I-5. Next slide. So for the Central Lane MPO bridge seismic status, you got 98 state bridges in the MPO, and you got 60 local agency bridges in the MPO. You can see that a portion are not vulnerable. Third, state bridges, a little over half for local. And then we've got some potentially vulnerable bridges and then vulnerable. So I asked our seismic engineer, what's the difference between potentially vulnerable and vulnerable? And he said, these were planning level estimates. We anticipate a single span bridge will work fine. Bridges built after 1990 in modern seismic codes will perform well. But he wasn't really giving me too much clarity between potentially vulnerable and vulnerable. He said you need to have a thorough analysis on each bridge to really say what the vulnerability is. And these were simply planning level numbers. So when these bridges get replaced with bridges that are designed to modern seismic codes, then you'll reduce your number of vulnerable bridges. Next. Here's an example, Franklin Boulevard over 99W. It's classified as potentially vulnerable. And you can see it's built in 1961. So just built this based on the built date alone. You can see that it was never designed to seismic standards. Plus it's got multiple spans, which is another concern. And if I had my, this has what's called suspended spans also, that it's got hangers, and it's getting probably too technical, but so this bridge is probably not going to do all that well if there's a major earthquake. Just an example. Can I have a next slide? I think we're pretty well done. So do I have any questions on either the bridge condition report or the status of the seismic program in Oregon in general, or what's going on with the seismic bridges in your MPO?
Looks like Councilor Groves got a question. Go ahead, Randy.
Thank you, Chair. And thank you, Bert, for the presentation and the update on this. That's very helpful. I'm very concerned in the fact that most of Lane County cannot get to any hospital in our region without with using surface streets. We have I-5 that we have to cross. In many cases, we have the Willamette River. There's multiple spans. And what I'm interested in is knowing what kind of priority we can get on seismically upgrading, at least a route or two in, so we've got a way to fall back on in the case of an emergency. If it's predictable, it's preventable, and this is something that I think is a catastrophe that's predictable.
Well, to give them a seismically resilient route, you need to replace the bridges with new bridges. So right now for the state program, I'm focused on condition. And if I can, when I replace a bridge, I'm getting a seismically resilient bridge. I'm focusing on replacing bridges that need it based on condition. And if I can do a seismic route, that's great. But unless there's a big chunk of money that's devoted to seismic, you're not going to get new bridges on seismic routes.
Well, with all due respect, I think just having a singular scale of how you're rating these and how you are prioritizing upgrades is not responsible. I think you need to also be thinking, how are we going to move people in all kinds of conditions, but especially in a large seismic event? And the reality is, it's not if this is going to happen. We know it's going to happen. It may not be in our lifetimes, but it is going to happen. And I really believe strongly that routes need to be taken into consideration in the decision matrix, not just how a bridge is rated.
Well, we are taking into account routes because we're using the seismic routes where we've prioritized the most important routes in the state, which are the phase 1 routes. We've addressed 97, we've addressed 58, and we're going to address Eugene North using 99W. So we are route specific.
That sounds a little different than what you said a minute ago.
Well, I'm going to.
You said it was based solely on the stability and rating of the bridge.
Well, we're replacing bridges on Highway 99. We're prioritizing that route. But
that doesn't get anybody to a hospital.
Well, if you, it takes money to replace bridges.
Okay, I feel like we're having a circular discussion. It still seems that needs to be a level of prioritization for how we get a very large portion of our population. And I'm talking about Lane County. I'm not just talking about the city of Eugene. How do we get people to the hospital? And if we don't have a seismically secure route, we're not going to be able to get there.
Okay, our seismic engineers working with all the counties on our seismic lifeline routes. And once we get those, we can get some priorities and get some funding.
Who do we need to talk to get this thing elevated?
I would talk to the director's office.
Thank you.
All right, looks like Steve Moe, Councilor Moe, go ahead.
Mr. Hartman, very interesting. I'm a retired bridge contractor from a long time ago. I built 20 or 30 bridges, 2,200 cubic yards poured in place, all concrete piling all over this area. I would really like to go out with somebody that has seismic information. Seismic was never even mentioned in those days. I like to go out with somebody who's got the seismic knowledge and point to me exactly what you look for in the seismic problems that you're experiencing now. I don't know where it is. I'd really like to know. And again, I'm intimate with the construction of them. So if you can fix me up with somebody who could do that, half an hour, a couple hours would all it take, and that would help me a lot understand these. Thank you.
Okay, I'll follow up with our seismic engineer.
Yep, thank you. Appreciate it.
Commissioner Farr, I believe you were next, sir.
Thank you, President Lovell. You know, this is Bart. Is this Bert Hartman that I'm talking to? Commissioner Pat Farr. You know, I just want to tag along with Chief Groves. Now, I want to underline that this is Chief Groves. And I don't know, Mr. Hartman, if you know that Chief Grove was the Eugene Springfield Fire Chief. And his knowledge of routes to hospitals should be listened to by the highest authorities. And I would hope and expect that you would be an asset to us in talking to the director in making certain that routes hospitals are prioritized in bridge reconstruction. Bridges do cost money. Lives are irreplaceable, and routes to hospitals are absolutely essential. And if you've not used that in your matrix for the nature of the essential routes that you're planning the bridge replacement on, your matrix needs to be revised. I'm not suggesting that you haven't used it in the matrix, but we need to be assured that it has been. And I stand behind Chief Groves on this, that the very highest level, at the very highest level, this needs to be reconsidered.
Great points. Thank you, Commissioner. Ms. Susan Cox, do you have your hand up still? Go ahead.
Thank you. One of the things that I wanted to just remind everyone is the bridge that goes across Franklin also is the main hub to LTD and that transportation system. So I think from that perspective, it needs to be on the priority list. I appreciate all this information. It's very sobering.
Thank you, Susan. Mary Venice, you had your hand up and down. Are you still want to make a comment on our question?
I would really just wanted to support what Councilor Groves was saying and Commissioner Farr, that I think, it's not, we need to prioritize these routes for survival in a Cascadia event. And so I just wanted to chime in. Thank you.
Good deal. Thank you for that comment. Yeah, I couldn't agree more with Councilor Groves' comments as well. I mean, he's the guy who's the expert. I'm just kind of curious if this particular information, Bert, would come back to us at a later date soon, that we could know if the prioritizers were realigned to help us out with that. Is that something that you're interested in?
I'll work with our seismic standard engineer and see where what status the Lane County is for the lifeline reps.
And I'm wondering how we can help that along. Is there something that I can do as chair to help that along, meet with people with you, or how can I help?
I will take your name and I'll pass it on.
Okay. All right. I appreciate that, sir, very much. Commissioner Farr, do you have another question? Your square is lighting up a little bit. You okay?
Negative. Sorry, I just didn't hit my mute button.
All right. No worries. All right. Is there any other comments? This is obviously a very important issue to all of us, public safety and getting people to the hospital. Vidal, you got your hand up. Yeah, go ahead, sir.
Yes, I do, and I think that the concern here is valid. The truth is, the most important thing is how can we keep people alive? How can we keep our community moving such that we can stay alive? To be honest with you, and I'm happy to sit with you, Mr. Groves, if you will, or this whole body. To be honest with you, to sit down and actually look at those routes, because again. There may be, disconnect is not the right word. There may be something that may not be seen in terms of what we're looking at as far as priority routes versus what Lane County is looking at as far as priority routes. And if we can come to a place where we both can kind of agree or see the same things that you're seeing, I think that would be helpful for all. And I'm happy to discuss that with you offline or at some point. I'd love to be honest with you. Because again, on my end of things, I'm looking at what's happening around Lane County, if you will, and there's a few bridges I know, and I think Bert, who helps me a lot with some of the bridge work that needs to be done around here, he hears from me some of the needs that I have as far as what needs to be replaced, what needs to go where. So again, if we can have that conversation, even if it's just me, you, and Commissioner Barbs, I'm happy to sit down and let's have that conversation to see what your priority is as far as what's significant, what needs to be addressed, and obviously where our state system overlaps on top of that.
Great suggestion. Yeah, I'm hoping that Mr. Hartman and you get together on that for sure. Okay, anything else on this item? Looks like we've got some more work to do on this item going forward. Like I said, Mr. Hartman, thank you for your time. I appreciate it, and we're willing to work with you. You've got a few eager people that are willing to hitch onto that wagon to make that a priority, sir. So I'm hopeful that we can do that and work together.
Yeah, excellent. Thank you.
Okay, moving right along, we're going to go to item 6D, 6C, our Oregon Joint Committee Transportation meeting that's scheduled for July 17th. Rob Innerfeld is doing that presentation. As you know, it's you know, a lot of budgeting shortfalls and some ideas. So I'm hoping that we can stimulate a vigorous conversation and some creative ideas of how we can do some things. I will add something that I'm looking for. I'm going to be out of town on that 17th of July. So I'm looking for an avid and passionate presenter that would present our ideas to that meeting. So just bear that in mind as we go through this talk. And hopefully if there's someone out there, you could maybe put that in the chat and I could contact you later and get y'all set up. So Rob, if you're ready, I see the slides. Go ahead and take it away.
Hi there, this is Jennifer Willer, City of Eugene. I'm actually stepping in for Rob today and giving the presentation. So I do see the slides up here. Could we get a full screen on the second slide?
Hang on one second.
You know, my apologies, Jennifer. I did know that, but you know, over 40, I totally
That's
spaced.
fine. You've got a
My
lot of things, a lot of balls to juggle up in the air.
All right, you're doing a great job. Keep it up.
I can also share the slides if that.
Well, let me just, how does that look?
That looks great.
Okay. Perfect.
All right, thank you. I'm Jennifer Willer. I'm the city engineer for the City of Eugene. And as Chair Lovell said, on July 17th, the Oregon Legislature's Joint Committee on Transportation is meeting in Eugene as part of a series of meetings around the state to obtain input ahead of the Oregon 2025 legislative session. And we have a group of staff from our local MPC member agencies that are going to present some information and lead a discussion today with the intention of crafting a message from the MPO that can be delivered at that July 17th meeting. And just as a kind of reminder, it was in your packet, but the goals of the convening these meetings around the state is to build public understanding of transportation funding challenges and potential funding tools to address those challenges, build legislative understanding of statewide transportation needs and shared priorities, build local, regional, statewide support and a sense of urgency for a transportation funding package focused on maintenance, operations, and safety. And finally, gather input from the public and community leaders about preferred methods for addressing the transportation funding challenge. So we're going to run through a presentation pretty quickly, and then we'll have lots of time for questions and discussion. So first up is Lane County, if you want to move to the next slide. Oh, next slide, sorry.
Actually, Ellen, can you go back one slide? Thank you so much.
Oh, sorry.
Thank you, Jennifer, and thank you, Ellen, for running our tech. Hi, everyone. My name is Cassidy Mills, and I am the Interim Transportation Planning Supervisor with Lane County Public Works. As Jennifer spoke to before, we're going to be highlighting some of our transportation needs and our funding priorities. And to give you an understanding of Lane County's jurisdictional responsibilities for our transportation network, Lane County is the steward of 1,400 miles of roadways and over 425 bridges. Consequently, in order to maintain and modernize this system, transportation funding is a topic we've tracked closely. In 2014, Lane County hired a consultant to develop a funding outlook and options memorandum that identified significant funding challenges impacting our work. Today, we are experiencing the realities of the 2014 projections. To compensate for lower revenues, the County Capital Improvement Program has aggressively scaled back its capital construction projects and now emphasizes maintenance projects as the highest priority. We recognize that diminishing returns from the State Highway Fund has left the residents of our region's 43 unincorporated communities and 12 cities vulnerable to transportation system failure. Our goal is to ensure this network is safe, functional, and resilient for all modes of travel, and we need stable funding to do so. Next slide, please. In Lane County, most rural roads fail to meet basic engineering standards, especially lacking paved shoulders, which are critical to reducing roadway departure crashes and to providing physical space for people to walk and bike that's separate from vehicles. This leaves all roadway users, especially those without a vehicle, at risk of serious injury or death. And on this slide, you'll see that most fatal crashes occur on rural roads, so keeping people from leaving the road is the surest engineering solution to markedly reduce fatal crashes. We've done extensive planning work, specifically our transportation system plan, which identified that safety was the biggest concern within this analysis. And the resulting recommendation was constructing roadway shoulders on 71 county roads. And more recently, a 2023 survey on rural roadway safety had 1,823 reported safety concerns. And of those, inadequate roadway shoulder was the top safety concern. Next slide, please. As many of you know, Lane County's roadways are the backbone for the rural economy, connecting residents to goods, emergency services, and recreation. The vast majority of our road infrastructure was built 100 years ago. Over the past 5 years, total costs to maintain our aging system have continued to rise steadily, thus reducing our capacity to maintain and preserve roadways. Unmet needs generate a snowball effect in costs and subsequently roadway failures. And this slide highlights some of our infrastructure statistics. Specifically, 6% of county bridges are in poor condition and nearly 40% are in fair condition. 52% of ADA ramps are failing and 33% are missing. The costs for ADA upgrades have increased to 38% in the last year. In a survey on rural roadway safety, 56% of respondents indicated they would walk or bike more if there were infrastructure to do so. Next slide, please. And poignant timing given the last presenter's subject matter, but the region's transportation networks will be critical to the state's recovery following a disaster, first in facilitating emergency response and then restoring mobility. Oregon has a strong history of planning for resilience, but we lack the tools to address our vulnerabilities posed by climate change, seismic events, and concurring events and other hazards specific to transportation networks across Lane County. The slide highlights that only 1 in over 425 bridges in the county, and that's within our jurisdiction specifically, is seismically retrofit. Lane County has over 200 square river miles of floodplain, more than any other county in Oregon, and we're already experiencing the impacts of flooding on county roadways. And Oregon ranks #1 in the US for risk of landslides, and Lane County ranks #3 in the state. So we face a lot of various natural hazards, and so ensuring that our transportation system is resilient to these hazards is paramount to our community's safety. And on that topic,
Cassidy, real quick, yeah, so I'm sorry to interrupt. Can I just ask what bridge is seismically retrofit right now? Do you have the name of that or where it's located?
Oh, great. If you can give me a moment, I can have that to you by the end.
Yeah, I mean, just at the end, no problem. Just earmark it and just keep going. No
Thank
worries.
you so much, Chair Lovell. I appreciate the question. And now I'll pass it off to Drew with the City of Springfield.
Good afternoon. Drew Larson, Transportation Planner for the City of Springfield. I do not quite have the study that Lane County did stating the conditions of our roads, but I do have some priorities and some safety concerns, maintenance concerns, those types of things that I would like to present. First, I know that the JCT tour, they may not be asking for big ticket items at this point, but we do have some priorities here in Springfield, including completing Glenwood Boulevard, both east, west, north, south. That would bring the needed infrastructure to start bringing in new housing, new jobs, infrastructure, those types of things. The 42nd Street, this one is a high priority, considering that the 42nd Street levee currently safeguards a third of Springfield's residents, as well as 7,500 buildings. And it is in needs of repairs, possibly reconstruction. We've started the review process of that levee. Now, it's anticipated that any levee reconstruction will likely require realignment of the 42nd Street roadway. And with that, comes added ADA. This one's going to be a hot ticket, a very high price tag priority for the City of Springfield. We do have some money from the 2017 legislation that we got for a jurisdictional transfer of Pioneer Parkway to the City of Springfield. And we have expended a little bit of those funds just to extend the life of 42nd Street with just an overlay and some minor ADA upgrades. So those are kind of our big ticket asks. These next two, Marcola 19th Q Street intersection. This one is a prime example of maintenance, not necessarily gone wrong, but maintenance neglected where other priorities have taken over, and it's to the point of full reconstruction. It's basically from Olympic Street south of the overpass over the 126 up to the intersection of Q Street, 19th and Marcola there, with the additional of 750 plus housing units at Marcola Meadows. This is a high priority intersection and actually one that we would recommend for the JCT, the tour, as one of our examples of maintenance gone wrong coming through. This one also is exacerbated by truck routes, or they get off of the 126 there, they wait, they delay traffic. It has caused a number of the concerns, and then they loop into 42nd, which really ties those two together, and a big priority for the city of Springfield. Now, the safety concern on active transportation, you know, Springfield has made some strides. We're doing well with prioritizing some projects, but there's areas of town that just either lack sidewalks, don't have shoulders to walk on, don't have adequate ADA accessibility, and these hinder access to services, to transit, for those that are, you know, don't have a car or are a limited household with cars. And so, you know, looking to address our ADA concerns, our bicycle facilities to get people to these services. Thank you. Next slide, please, Ellen. So kind of in our maintenance, this slide shows kind of a study of our existing arterials and collectors. We used this information recently for our most recent bond measure that passed, thankfully. Green is arterials or collectors that are in good condition, no needs of maintenance. Yellow is a resurfacing, will extend the life of the road. Red is, unfortunately, we're at like full reconstruction. It's estimated that the resurfacing, or the yellow color, it was approximately about 40.5 million to rehab and get these roads into green conditions, to really extend the life of those roads. Our $20 million bond that just passed with 57% is going to address maybe half of the issues there. And so really looking at funding to prolong the life of these roads. So finding permanent funding. Now, bond measures are great. Capital bond measures, they're kind of filling our need right now, but there's no long-term projection that they will continue to pass at the local level. I mean, this last one was only 57%, barely passing. And so future bond measures, you know, there might go up 30 million, 40 million, really to address our backlog. And so finding stable, resilient funding that's long-term is a high priority for Springfield. Next, please. Touched on this a little bit, long-term funding. I mean, the bond measures, they're great. They're addressing our immediate concerns, but they're not looking at any of our active transportation. They're just resurfacing projects. We don't have any sidewalk projects, any ADA upgrades. And just, I know that the transportation utility fee, there's 35 cities in the state of Oregon that have these currently. Springfield does not. It could potentially fill a maintenance need. However, I don't think that Springfield would necessarily go for this at this time. And so really kind of looking at kind of a statewide funding issue, or some sort of fix, either pay as you drive, a fee on deliveries. I'm actually up in Portland for the Active Transportation Summit, and I listened to a presentation from a representative from Minnesota, and they have a 50-cent fee on all deliveries over $100. They're projected to 60 million in revenue just on that. Now, they started with a 50-cent fee on every delivery, but they landed at this 100. And so that, you know, might be a good idea. But I think Springfield is definitely poised to support a statewide funding reform, either indexing the current revenues to inflation or increasing gas tax, whatever it might be. I think Springfield is supportive of those. And then my next slide, Ellen, this just highlights this Q Street 19th intersection. This is north of the westbound exit off of the 126. It's just past the point of repair, of basic maintenance, and it's a full reconstruct. And so it's just a prime example, and it covers a couple jurisdictions, ODOT having some of that, and then as well as the city of Springfield. And with that, that's really all I have. Thank you.
Good afternoon, MPC members. Thank you for the opportunity to present today. My name is Megan Winner, and I'm the Planning Director with the City of Coburg. In Coburg, our priorities and funding needs are similar yet unique to the other jurisdictions you'll hear from today. First, many of our local streets are in need of preservation, maintenance, as well as improvements. The City of Coburg has implemented a local gas tax and also a transportation utility fee, or TUF. But even with these additional revenue streams, there is not enough funding generated to adequately address both the maintenance and improvement needs of our local streets. As part of the MPO, Coburg is eligible for federal funds, but is not able to deliver federally funded projects ourselves because we are not a certified agency as required. This creates additional challenges for planning and implementing projects. Next slide, please. Another transportation priority and funding need for Coburg is addressing the commuter and freight traffic that comes through our downtown core. Much of the traffic congestion comes from the growing areas to the north and is not generated by Coburg residents or businesses. The commuter and freight traffic is incompatible with our walkable downtown main streets, where pedestrian safety improvements such as marked crossings and flashing beacons are needed on Willamette and Pearl streets. Regional collaboration and funding is necessary for an east-west connector road project at the North Gateway to Coburg. Next slide, please. Finally, a complete replacement of exit 199, the I-5 exit at Coburg, is needed. Current conditions of the interchange could impede regional economic development as a trip cap has been imposed on newly annexed 107 acres of light industrial land. Current conditions of the interchange also have major safety issues for all modes of transportation, especially pedestrians and bicyclists, and it is very dangerous for those modes to cross the bridge. There is also not an adequate radius for trucks and other vehicular movement. State and/or federal funding is necessary for the interchange project. Thank you again for your time, and I'll pass it over to Jennifer with the City of Eugene.
All right, so I'm going to wrap things up here. So continuing with the conversation about bridges. So Eugene manages 59 vehicular bridges and 52 pedestrian off-system bridges. In 2018, we completed a seismic assessment of 57 total bridges and that included 53 of the 59 vehicular bridges. And 24 of those 57 bridges had identified seismic deficiencies. And what we're seeing, construction costs, as you know, are highly variable, and some of the bridges that we originally assessed as retrofits, upon further evaluation, should now be reconstructed. One bridge that we thought was a retrofit that turned out to be a replacement was the West 11th Bridge over Amazon Creek, and that's currently estimated at $21 million to replace. And while a majority of the bridge retrofits would be between $2 to $4 million for construction, for some additional perspective, in 2021, the retrofit of the Coburg Road Ferry Street Bridge and the viaduct were estimated to be more than $30 million to complete. Our backlog maintenance for all bridges is estimated to be between $8 and $10 million. Next slide. Our street condition and pavement preservation program is that the city manages over 1,400 lane miles of streets and 46 miles of shared use paths. Approximately 22% of Eugene's streets are in fair, poor, or very poor condition and in need of significant rehabilitation. Even streets in good condition are in need of regular and programmed maintenance and preservation, such as crack and joint sealing, slurry seals, and overlays. Even with the city's 5-cent local gas tax and voter-approved payment bond measures, we still face a significant backlog for street repair that is currently estimated to be $158 million. Next slide. And then transportation safety. Recently released crash data from ODOT indicates that fatal crash numbers hit their highest level in over 10 years in the Eugene area, beginning in 2022 and continuing in 2023. The current preliminary data for 2024 would suggest that the Eugene area is on pace to see similar fatal crash data numbers by the end of the year. And the growing numbers of traffic fatalities at local, state, and federal levels demonstrate a need for more robust transportation safety investment. And I think that is the last slide, so we can take questions and have additional conversation. Thanks.
Great presentations, everyone. Thank you for the information. As I've looked, Councilor Mo, you've had your hand up for a while. Is that a residual hand or one for this topic?
Nope, I'm just waiting for my turn. Everybody spoke very well.
All right, there you go.
I wanted to mention this. I'm the chair of the OMPOC, and I committed at our last meeting to speak at the Transportation Policy Committee or when they come through here on July the 17th. So I'm going to try and get something together that reflects what they want. But I also represent Springfield. So there'll be a few sentences in there covering Springfield. And the key to everything is money. We need to get money somehow, somewhere. And funding is the big deal. And everybody else is going to say that too. So that's it. Thank you.
Awesome. Councilor Groves.
Thank you, Chair. And thank you to everyone that was part of this presentation. I found it very useful and helpful in understanding the problem. Also, specifically to Springfield, congratulations on passing your road bond. On election night, I actually watched that race as closely as any of them, knowing that this is just a harbinger of things to come. I have watched our road backlog go from 200 million in 2008 dollars down to, what are we, Jennifer, a little over 100 million right now in 2024 dollars. So we've made headway, but as soon as you repair a street, it starts degrading again. So it's obviously a revolving process. And I know that all of our areas have done a pretty good job in trying to have pavement preservation programs. Specifically, I wanted to speak to what are we going to do in the long term about our funding. Everything is primarily based on gas tax, and our vehicles are much more fuel efficient today than they were yesterday, which is good. More people are driving electric vehicles, which burn no fossil fuel, which is good. But at the same time, when we're reliant on the burning of fossil fuel for our funding mechanism, we've got to come up with a new way of doing this. And I'm sure, like every elected official here and every member of the public, I too dread bond measures and levies, although they are just become a reality in where we are without having a sales tax at the state level and just trying to rely on a two-legged financial stool of, primarily property tax for local government, but overall income and property tax. But are there any ideas on the horizon for what are we going to do about the structural problem that we have in raising money for road preservation?
It's a great question, and that's obviously not rhetorical. You're probably looking to have some people having some of those ideas that they've got, and I think Councilman, do you have any ideas on that to speak to that, or do you want to answer that question in light of what your hands up? Councilor Mo?
Oh. Yeah, Randy's okay. We always talk about gas tax, and I'm trying to start using the term road user tax because those who bought electric vehicles knew they were driving for free, and they knew it was going to end someday. And the new ones going out there are driving for free. So I think we need to slowly implement mindset that everybody is going to have to pay for using the road somehow. Now, every time I say that, everybody says, "How are you going to implement that?" I don't know, but I think it's hopefully we'll find a way that's equitable and everybody goes along with it.
Mayor Van Gordon got his hand up too. I'm sure he's got the answer. I'm sorry, Commissioner.
Actually, if I can just finish, add one more thing. I just wanted to emphasize, I think it's a very important, and I appreciate Jennifer highlighting this, is the road safety and pedestrian bicycle fatal accidents that we're experiencing. And part of Vision Zero is trying to take that down to zero. So the more we can separate pedestrians and bicyclists from vehicular traffic, the better off we're going to be as communities in a region. Thank you.
Yeah, good. You mentioned a lot of layers of problems. Is that we're thinking, first there's shoulders, and then there's bridges, and then there's, ADA, and then there's maintenance. This is a really multi-layered problem. Mayor Van Gordon, what do you got?
I think the presentation was fantastic. I guess the question that I have is, do we know more about what the committee's actually looking for? And we may not know at this point from a staff perspective.
Anyone have an answer for that? Because I certainly don't. Mayor Avinas, do you have a insight on that? No? Okay. Vidal, your hand was up for a second.
Yeah, briefly what I can say, at least from what I'm hearing on my end, obviously the committee wants to hear what everyone else has to say about needs and so forth. But I think a bigger part of the conversation too is, and everyone recognizes that ODOT does have a budget situation that's going on that does need to be fixed or cleaned, if you will. And that also hinges on the huge maintenance needs that we have as far as being able to support our maintenance functions from a budgetary standpoint. And again, and I think Councilor Groves kind of mentioned something that was fairly unique in terms of fixing our needs from a structural standpoint. And that's the situation that the agency, ODOT, is kind of in terms of our maintenance. How could we fix our situation from a structural standpoint to being able to support all of our maintenance functions? So that I'm understanding is going to be one of the larger conversations, or at least listening sessions, if I can say this right, that they're going to be listening to and wanting to see and wanting to hear. Because again, you probably already know this, is the agency typically go on I think it's like an 8 or 9 year cycle, if you will, where there's a package that comes through, and somehow 9 years, 8 years later, that package kind of weans itself out, and there's a new package or something else has to be done to keep our maintenance budgets, if you will, moving forward from cycle to cycle.
Yeah, I think that's really good feedback. I think my concern was when I read the reporting out of, I think, Bike Portland today about the first meeting, was the feedback that the committee had given was that this was all about ODOT. And I know that the ODOT funding mechanism is a big portion of it, but they're going to be looking for political support to find other funding mechanisms. And this can't just be a state solution, right? It's got to address some of the ongoing maintenance problems in our broader community. And I think the other portion that I saw was that in that same article, they cited something like $2 to $3 billion of additional needs in Portland, which again, the conversation started in Portland, but our going position cannot be, they've got to have a transportation bill that's, widely supportive of broadly across Oregon to be successful here, right? And then the last plug that I will make for safety, for the safety portion, frankly, ODOT needs to be doing more investment in, getting the safety data to us in a more reasonable, speedy, consumable fashion. I constantly hear that would help us a lot. And, that a tangible step to say, hey, look, fix all these funding mechanisms, and hey, we actually need to be more responsive in a rapidly changing world by seeing safety data faster. That would be helpful to the entire state.
Yeah, good points. Mayor Bennis?
Yeah, thank you, Chair. I guess I really appreciate Mayor Van Gordon's comments, because I think our task today is to identify someone who will present to this committee when they come. And so I guess I'm looking for the sort of level of recommendation, and assuming that the presentation we've just had is sort of the background information of what are all of our needs. And so what are I'm assuming that this presentation we give is not going to be a a sort of a long list of these are the specific needs that the JCT is the Transportation Committee is actually really looking for kind of thematic recommendations. So I'm just kind of wanting to distill that down. It seems just thinking about the bridge retrofitting we just heard about, and now hearing about, you know, the sort of the maintenance and the high fatality, and then knowing that we're about to have a conversation about a regional transportation plan. I'm wondering if there are themes that tie those things together in terms of safety investments that we would recommend to the Joint Transportation Committee about that what's important to the public that the public would then support an increased revenue measure. So you know, crucial routes in an emergency, crucial safety and certain. I mean, I would think, you know, the 42nd Street in Springfield and maybe that earlier conversation about making sure that we're repairing routes that are critical access routes in a crisis. I mean, I think we would want to distill down to some like themes like that, and just putting that out there to hear what other people say.
I think it's a great suggestion. Yeah, Miss Sasha, did you have your hand up for a while? You still want to add some?
Sure, thank you. This is Sasha Vartanyan with Lane County staff, and I would like to just emphasize, I think, in terms of themes, I think Mayor Van Gordon touched on this, but it's really important to highlight that we all, as local agencies, have huge funding needs for our transportation system. So I think the thing we should underscore the most is, yes, we want to support ODOT in filling their funding needs, but we all have them. So we need to come up with a solution that serves everyone.
Yeah, I think that's a great point. I mean, I was in my mind as people were talking, trying to consider, okay, is this a try to find where everybody pitches in and it's a state thing that funnels down to the local jurisdictions, or, you know, if there's something that the counties do themselves, then how does that impact the industries economically that I'm thinking of? So Bill, help me out here. What do you got?
Yes, thank you, Chair. Bill Johnston, ODOT staff. Vidal and I were just reviewing the meeting agenda from the meeting that was held in Portland yesterday that Mayor Van Gordon referred to. The format is definitely different than the format in 2016 for any of you that were around for that outreach effort. It was less formal. There was an effort to engage the Lane Act and other elected officials in the discussion. There is a tour that Vidal referred to. So it's a little unclear. Vidal will try to provide some more insight before the meeting on July 17th. It appears that there may just be time at the end of the agenda for public testimony. And I'm involved in preparing the Lane Act for this discussion. I'm not even sure if they'll get any special time other than time on the agenda during the time for public comments. We'll try to get some clarification for this group. That's what I can share. Vidal may have some more insight.
Vidal, insight.
I'm going to do my best here. Look, let's be honest here. And I like the way Sasha put it. You know, the truth is we all have needs here. That's the bottom line. You know, and the truth is if you don't ask for it, most likely getting it probably won't happen. But again, at the same time, we do recognize that the agency and agencies across the state, you know, they have their challenges that they have to deal with. And I'm going to frame it this way. I had someone, one of the locals, and I can't remember which one, asked me this. They say, "Hey, Vidal, look, JCT's coming in town. I got this, that. How would you go about, you know, expressing your needs, but at the same time being supportive?" My thought around that would simply be, "Hey, look, start the conversation off. We recognize that ODOT does have needs, and it is in a tough situation. And the truth is, if our system goes down or has troubles, your system will have trouble too, because again, who's going to handle that excess?" So really, there's a partnership here that we all need to kind of be cognizant with, that has to happen between us to move forward. So that conversation should, in my opinion, should be somewhat, hey, we recognize that you have, you know, issues here and there, and we support the agency as far as the maintenance needs and so forth. And after you finish that conversation, then you say, but look here, we do have needs here, and these are some of our 1 or 2 priorities. And again, throwing a whole list out, really, there's not enough to spread around to everyone. But again, we do need to, in some measure or form or fashion, let folks know that you may have needs or what's not. But at the same time, coming across as a partner in their situation will help and go, in my opinion, a long ways. I can touch up a little bit more on the agenda that was that they had. What was it, yesterday or day before yesterday? Just so you know, it actually started off with around noon. I think they had an I don't know if it was a bus or some sort of a transportation tour, if you will, where they actually visited about 4 or 5 sites. And in those 4 or 5 sites, obviously talked around what was the needs, you know, some of the conditions that were happening and so forth. That was from around noon for about 2 hours, 2.5 hours. And then after that, they actually went into, they met up at one of the meeting places where they met up with a group of folks. And I don't know who was actually invited, and I don't know how that invite actually happens, but they met up with a group of folks, and they had what's called a roundtable conversation. Who was the panelists, who were not the panelists, I'm not sure. I'm still trying to get that information, and it's kind of slowly trickling into me. But it was a roundtable discussion. Then after that roundtable discussion, they opened it up for a public hearing for about 2 hours to hear any public comments. I don't know if there was an actual time limit around how much time an individual was able to speak, but you may want to be cognizant of that. So will you have an opportunity to speak? I think so. I believe so. The timeline around it, I don't know what that actually looks like. But again, there was a public hearing afterwards that lasted for about 2 hours that they allowed the public to actually come in and give conversation. I don't know if that helps, but that's all that I know right now.
All right, Vidal, thanks for that intel. Mayor Van Gordon, you got your hand up, sir.
I guess I have 2 kind of conflicting opinions here. One of them is, I know it's not we're being invited to a meeting, somebody else's meeting here. I think it would go a long way if we're gonna approach transportation problems as partners, is that and the MPO and Lane Act have to be treated like a partner here. And I think having the conversation with everybody around the table is far more helpful than if they show up into town and then say, you can give comments only in the public hearing. So I think that's kind of point 1. The other point is, this cannot be a mutually exclusive conversation. And Vidal, I hope you can feel free to share this with folks on the ODOT side. If this is a conversation of, you have to fix ODOT's problems, and maybe if something's left over, you know, we can talk about local transportation issues, I would have a hard time politically supporting funding mechanisms that are all pointed at Portland or Salem. I think that would be really challenging to put, you know, these communities in the corner for. We've got to find space to think about the holistic transportation system. I know ODOT's got huge issues. I'm willing to be there on the table, but I just don't want to be painted out of the conversation before the conversation's even happened.
Oh, that's completely fair, Mayor Van Gordon. I more than sympathize with you there.
Mayor Venice.
Yeah, I just wanted to piggyback on that also, which is I'd be dismayed if this meeting comes and our only opportunity to speak is as part of a public hearing for 3 minutes. So I guess I'm wondering, when we were tasked to come up with a presenter, what is that presenter's role actually? Or are we really going to submit a sort of written comment and that presenter just gets to refer to it? I mean, if there's feedback I'm a little concerned that we're organizing for something that actually isn't going to amount to anything, because we're going to be just like every other member of the public who shows up. We're not going to, I'm sort of a little puzzled by the structure, and I didn't watch the meeting from Big Portland, so I don't know.
Yeah, I've got to admit, I'm also in Mayor Venice's camp here. I'm not sure what exactly emphasis and timetable that we have as a body to put forth, but I would think and hope that we as a body could put forth some strong recommendations, as Vidal had said, partnering not only with the state, but with our local needs as well. Vidal, go ahead.
Yeah, the only thing I'm going to add to Mayor Venice's comments is that this is the JCT show. So ODOT, we're on our end, we're not managing it, we're not running it, we're simply being called or asked to provide this, provide that, and obviously they go about doing what they need to do. And again, I don't have control over the format or how it happens, when it happens. But as much as I get information about it, I'm more than happy to share.
Bill, go ahead.
Yeah, a quick follow-up. I hope it didn't stir the pot. I don't know for sure that you or the Lane Act would be limited to time during public comment period. Hopefully we'll know more before July 17th. The way I will be helping the Lane Act prepare is I'll be preparing them for both the opportunity to provide public comments. We'll have talking points for the chair. The Lane Act has also prepared a list of projects that they could, we know that the JCT isn't that interested in specific projects, but we will probably transmit the Lane Act's list to them anyway, just so they have it and have a feel for the kinds of funding needs that the local jurisdictions and ODOT have in this area. So a little more insight in terms of what I'm helping the Lane Act with. And again, hopefully we'll have more clarification before July 17th.
Ms. Sasha, go ahead.
I was just going to ask if it's possible to make the request that we could get connected with who makes the roundtable invite so that we can make sure that that we have MPC representative and local electeds at the table for that roundtable discussion.
All right, Vidal.
I can look into it, Sasha.
So what's kind of interesting is when Bill, you said just a couple things come to mind is Mayor Venice, you said what's important to the public. I think that's a really important question that's kind of swirling around in my head. But also, Bill had mentioned that the JCT is not looking for specific ideas. And, you know, me as an advertising developer fixer guy, when I heard this thing was coming up, I immediately phoned my son, who's a 38-year-old. I guess he's a millennial, drives an electric car. And I'm like, all right, hey, what's fair here? And of course, he's, you know, on the wave of riding his free infrastructure ride that he gets to ride his electric car around and doesn't get to pay for it. So I was like, look, how do you people come into the infrastructure payment plan of helping everybody fix this? And he had a couple of ideas, but I guess, Bill, we're not there at the JCT to present those ideas, but he had some interesting comments that I think is valuable for us as, you know, MPC members to think about. He had mentioned that the surcharge on kilowatts on superchargers would be a first avenue, because if you look at most of the usage of electric vehicles, most of the people that own them within Lane County charge them, trickle charge them, or do whatever at their own homes. Very few people go to superchargers to charge them. So he only goes to a supercharger if it's on a road trip. So if we had a supercharger surcharge tax or some sort of thing on our supercharger stations, that's primarily going to be revenue that comes in by people passing through or on longer road trips out of our area, which I thought was a decent idea. He also mentioned something about tires. Everybody has to use tires. So why don't we do a statewide thing on a statewide edition on tires? If it's just a countywide thing to help the county, then obviously then somebody would probably travel to Lynn County to buy their tires and would affect our own tire industry people here. But if it was a statewide tire tax, if you will, that might help. He also mentioned something about the registration fees. Obviously, our registration fees in the state are artificially low when you compare it to Washington or California. And right now they're currently sitting at about $80 or $85. What if they went up $25 per registration fee that funneled that? I'm not sure how much revenue that would generate, but at least it would bring us up to the West Coast standard of what registration fees are like. And then obviously he was kind of wanting to ding it on the fossil fuel folks and said, you know, you should just increase your gas tax, to which him and I had a conversation that I didn't think that was fair for you freebies riding around in your electric vehicles. But he did have something that was kind of interesting as well. He said, well, what about a purchase car fee, that when someone bought electric vehicles, there was a standard fee, say even as much as $2,500 to buy that because there's so many incentives from the feds and the state to buy electric vehicles that could be offset, but also feed into the infrastructure coffer as a one-time fee that would extend out maybe about a 10 or a 12-year thinking of owning an electric car, what road infrastructure contributions would be like. So that's the conversations we had. I don't know if that's helpful to the committee, but I thought it was inside information that I thought was helpful for me. So any other comments, I'm happy to welcome some more. Don't be shy, y'all. Come on, we have some good heated discussions here. So I guess in lack of anybody chiming in now are we as a committee, MPC, on semi-standby for more information to come in of how we're going to participate with that JCT meeting coming in July? John, your hand's up. Go ahead.
Yeah, I do have a question. I do sit in on the Lane Act as a liaison for Lane County, which I'm Lane County Transportation Advisory Committee, as well as I'm alternate on this group. And I'm hopeful that the NPC, Lane County, and this group, or Lane Act, are coordinated from a basically a region standpoint or local standpoint, are coordinated in what we want to present to this joint commission on transportation. In other words, not selecting various projects individually, but what really are important to this particular region, the MPC area, etc. We just discussed the importance of access to our hospital. I would think that our priority should be making sure that those routes, those bridges within our area would be our priority, as well as preservation, maintenance, etc. But I think it's very important that from a region standpoint, that we hit them right between the eyes with what we all want, and not have their MPC has theirs, the Lane Act has theirs, etc. If you follow what I'm thinking. Thank you.
Yeah, thank you for that, John. Bill, go ahead.
Very good points, John. Here's what I can tell you. The Lane Act does have a special policy, actually, that requires the Lane Act to coordinate with the MPC in terms of identifying funding priorities. It was more relevant in the past when there was a modernization program and the Act was more directly involved in programming funding. That's changed quite a bit in recent years. At the staff level, I have been coordinating with Paul Thompson, and Lane Act has identified a process for coordinating with this group. It became less important as we realized that the JCT is somewhat less interested in funding specific projects, unlike in 2016, and that's what I was referring to previously. These tours will involve looking at specific projects, but I think their focus is on addressing some of the structural funding problems the state has. So we still have some time between now and July 17th. Paul isn't here today, but the Lane Act agenda packet just came out today. He'll see what it says. We've identified some talking points. So there's still an opportunity to coordinate. I think in general, we're all on the same page. The Lane Act project list may be slightly different than the list of projects that the local governments presented today, but I think there's the general theme between both committees, of course, is that we need more money and we have great needs, both at the state level and local level. I'll stop there, but we are coordinating and there's still an opportunity to coordinate more.
Yeah, thank you, Bill. I think one of the things that, before I call on Sasha, that my son mentioned is that, systemically we have a money problem. So as people buy things for transportation, there should be a way to feed into that system. And I think that's what his ideas was about, tires and registration and so on, which I thought was pretty good. Sasha, go ahead.
I was just going to point out the reason that time is of the essence is MPC is not meeting in July because the meeting would be held July 4th, which is obviously a holiday. So now is the only time for this group to come to consensus about what themes they want to discuss at the JCT2 group.
Mayor Van Gordon.
I think we're just going to have to make a call, right? Like we have basically no information about what's going to be presented, presented the format and why. But I think I'm fine around, having preservation, maintenance issues, safety issues, and something about bridges, roughly. And frankly, I would be tempted if we're given, a speaking role is to just focus on what our needs are and just like, we are a policy body, is be very clear to people that if this conversation just focuses on ODOT's structural problem, that is actually going to be really challenging to have with our communities, right? Because I walked into this conversation expecting that we were talking about a transportation bill, not ODOT specific, which ODOT would be a subset of that. And that does not sound like that's the case.
John, your hand's still up. You still want to have a comment or two, or is it still lingering?
Sorry, I forgot to take it down.
Okay. All right, any other comments? So, Brenda, if we have some ideas here, is that something that you and I do offline to be more, I guess, word specific, targeted, whatever word you want to use for that meeting, that we have a presenter push forward our needs, but then I guess what I'm hearing is that they're not looking for ideas to fund. They're just looking for the weight of what's out there as far as the need. Is that what I'm hearing?
Chair, is that they want to hear from all Oregonians about the needs in Oregon. So transportation needs, whether they are on the state level, the county level, the local level, and they're also looking to gather information on how to fund those needs. And so I think it's what I've heard today is that there needs to be a reminder that this is not a state problem. This is a local problem as well, that we have needs that may not be recognized by ODOT because things have changed. One of the things that we were all surprised by was the fact that the hospital was closing. So, just a reminder that occurred. One of our legislators sits on the JCT. That's Representative Nathanson. And so, follow up with her or providing her with some questions that she may directly ask us while they are in town may help spur that conversation. I think that's good, but I think we can come up with some talking points to make sure that we're all on the same page. And as Bill mentioned, we are collaborating with the Lane Act to make sure that we are somewhat on the same page. And we just had this conversation at OMPOC, which is the statewide MPO, and we had basically the same conversation. So I think we're all on the same page.
Okay, I want to be mindful of time, but I also want to be specific. I don't want to just drop this and kick this ball down the road, but I want to, like you said, have some targeted points. Bill, you had your hand up and then you took it down. Is there anything you want to add?
Yes, briefly, I mentioned the Lane Act packet that was just sent out today. It included a list of priority projects identified by the Lane Act members. It also includes a set of talking points for the Lane Act chair to deliver to the JCT when they're in town. It's framed in terms of the 4 goals for these listening sessions that were outlined by the JCT in the information that we were provided. And Paul has seen that information. It may or may not be helpful to you, but we framed it in terms of responses to those goals, because that's what they are specifically identifying as the purpose of these listening sessions. That's all. Thank you.
Good. Thank you. Thank you, sir. Brenda, when is Paul due back?
exactly sure. He's on vacation. So, but I can certainly check that and we can set something up.
Yeah, I think that would be good because you know I don't want to keep us more than we have for time for this meeting, but also I want to have some very specific and pointed bullet points for that JCT meeting that represents the group. So I want to make sure we're all in tandem with that. Is there anything that the group wants myself and Paul maybe to meet about? And then is there, like I said, I'll be out of town for that meeting. Is there someone that can carry that message to the meeting effectively to represent the group? Is there someone willing to volunteer for that? I'm looking for a hand.
And we will write those talking points up to reflect this group's discussion.
Yeah, Mayor Venice, is your hand as the volunteer, as the vice chair? Is that what I'm thinking? Okay, good deal. I see you nodding. I know you're muted, but I appreciate that hand up. Thank you very much. All right, if there's anything else that we need to add to this discussion, let's do so. If not, let's move on as far as time goes to our item 6D. Does anybody have any objections to moving on? All right, let's do that. So we have a regional staff transportation plan coming up that Kelly Clark has got. Kelly, if you're ready in the wings, we're anxious to hear what you have to say.
Hi, thank you all. We have the Regional Transportation Plan, or RTP update, as a standing agenda item on this MPC agenda. But today I'll just be sharing a quick status update of kind of what we're working on, and we'll bring these items back to MPC in upcoming meetings. So this will just be a quick update here. So the things that we're working on now are existing conditions documentation, recommendations to strengthen the RTP's performance-based planning and programming framework, and ways to evaluate projects on their support of the RTP goals. We're also in the procurement process to select vendors for a travel benefits and barrier survey and to help with community engagement. And so we'll be able to kick those off hopefully this summer and starting with that piece of the project. We'll be meeting with our advisory committee next Thursday to go over all of this, and we'll bring it back to MPC in upcoming meetings for your review and feedback. And given this conversation that we're just having here, I do want to stress that we're entering a point in the RTP update. We're integrating these priorities that were being discussed today will really help to bake them into the plan as it develops and it's implemented. And so I think it's inspiring to hear this conversation here. And we'll be having those conversations to establish what those priorities are in upcoming meetings and also with the community. So I just wanted to add that piece in. That's all I have. And we'll be back. Happy to take any questions also.
All right, is there any questions before we move on to our next item? Okay, that puts us at item 6E for any other MPO information. Vidal, you've got an update. Is there anything else that you need to add, or you pretty much added out for the day?
Yeah, I think the discussion item 6C really covered any updates that I had with the JCT. The other things that are happening around ODOT, I think some of you probably already know this. Our budget's going to be coming out fairly soon, and it's going to look fairly grim. I'm hearing up to 30% cuts on it, so it's going to look pretty tough. I don't have a draft of it yet, but I know it's coming out fairly soon. Other than that, we've been just kind of balancing our portfolios to match our available cash so that we can keep our projects funded as with what we have available, keep the cash flow going to match up with our projects. So beyond that, nothing besides that. It's a great group to work with. I really appreciate the time to provide updates here.
Yes, Mayor Venice. Thank you, Vidal.
I'm sorry, I have just looked at my calendar. So I think we need a second backup person because we have a council meeting at noon on the 17th. I don't know what time this meeting happens, but just a flag for Brenda and organizing this. And I'm happy to show up if that's possible for me to show up. So
thank you for that insight. If I may be as so bold, I would like to put the passion that Councilor Groves put forth on the plans that we need bridges going to the hospital. And so if I could throw you under the bus for a minute, I think you, sir, would deliver this message, that bullet points that perhaps Brenda and I could put together very effectively if you are willing and able, sir.
I would be happy to, except I didn't volunteer for the same reason the mayor just raised. Council meeting.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, well, dang, someone needs a pass on that council meeting, I'm thinking. All right. Well,
The mayor and
duly
I can
noted.
talk.
More to come. More to come.
All right, duly noted. We'll hash out the schedule and we may be calling you back, sir. So I appreciate that. All right, going forward, is anything else I need to know on the people I looked over the TIP project changes? It was an information. Any questions on that? There was a couple items on there, the Laura Street project, fund shifting, and then some other things. No? All right, if there's no comment, Ms. Ann Davis is standing by, I would assume, for the item number 7, our Metropolitan Cable Commission issues updates. Yes? All right.
That's correct.
Good deal. Ann, take it away.
Okay, so this is the Cable Commission part. So a bunch of you can all just fall off. All we need is the 2 representatives from the 2 cities in the county.
Oh,
So
gotta go.
What's that?
I was making a joke about I had to go before you said, no, you're the one that has to stay.
No, you need to stay. Sorry. Apologies. I'm going to make this really quick because we're low on time, and the grant piece of this is pretty straightforward. So folks who have been on the MPC and Cable Commission in the past are familiar with this annual grant process. For those who haven't, every year Comcast gives the jurisdictions a total of $100,000 to go toward basically equipment for, lack of going into detail on what it is. But so 50,000 of that dollars goes to Neil Moyer's program with Metro TV, and $50,000 goes toward this grant process that we've set up where we divvy out the money to the other PEG, public education, government channels. In the past, what we've done is we've taken in the applications and then we've given a dollar amount recommendation to the Cable Commission to adopt, and basically say, rubber stamping our recommendation that this different amounts of money are going to go to each channel. We've got the Eugene Springfield Fire Scrambled channel. We've got CTV, which is the public channel, and then channel 23, which is what we're calling the education channel now. It used to be LCC. What generally happens is they write down their application amounts, what they want for each equipment item, and then we've approved it. What happens after that generally is that Neil Moyer goes out and he actually figures out exactly how much those items are going to cost. And interestingly, the cost comes in lower than what the applications show. And that happened again this year, except that Neil kind of did that cost analysis ahead of time. So we know exactly what what each equipment is going to cost. So instead of asking for the money, instead of recommending for the Cable Commission to approve the exact dollar amounts that were requested in the applications, we're a little closer to knowing what that actual cost is going to be. So Eugene Springfield Fire actually requested 11,100. CTV requested 38,800, and Channel 23 requested 10,000. When Neil got done with his analysis, I've actually just come up with a dollar figure over which you're going to recommend they do not spend over. So Channel 23, if you approved $9,000 for them, they would be covered because the actual cost is somewhere around 8,000 instead of the 10,000 they asked for. For the scrambled Eugene Springfield Fire, $11,000 should be adequate because Neil Moyer's numbers showed it approximately 10,000 instead of the 11,000 that they requested. And Channel 29, they asked for 38,000 and then some. And when Neil did his analysis, he realized that it wouldn't be in excess of 34,000. So basically what we're asking for the Cable Commission to approve is $9,000 for Channel 23, $11,000 for the Eugene Springfield Scramble channel, and $36,000 for Channel 29. So if you approve those numbers and say not to exceed, then each channel will have sufficient funds to purchase the equipment that they're needing for this year. I hope that wasn't too complicated. It was a little different process than we've done in the past.
No, I followed you. Everybody else up to speed with that? Thumbs up? All right, great. Ann, thank you so much. Great brevity, sped it up. Now, did that cover also A, B, and C for that item 7?
It did not. It did not. I can speak briefly on that. But we do need a motion. We need a motion for the part A.
We do. You're absolutely correct. All right, I'm looking for a motion for item A. Looks like Steve's got his hand up. Go ahead and make a motion, sir.
I'll make a motion that we approve the Cable Franchise Authority staff recommendations for 2024 grant cycle.
On the not to exceed figures. We want to add that, Ann?
Yep, that sounds good.
Okay.
I would love to second that.
Okay, we got a motion from Councilor Moe on the approval of the Cable Franchise Authority staff recommendation for the 24 grant cycle not to exceed the monies that Ann had said. It was seconded by Commissioner Farr. All those in favor say aye or indicate thumb. Any opposed? Passes unanimously. Good deal. Thank you, Ann. Move along to B, if you will.
Yeah. So just quickly, the memo kind of describes the process that we are in. We've been working on renewing this franchise for as long as I've been at LCOG, so 7 years. But we have some good news. The barrier that we've had is this competitive equity provision, which we've described in the memo we've described before. It is basically requires us to treat other providers similarly. And we've argued to Comcast that should be other cable providers, and they want us to treat them the same as other non-cable providers, so streaming services and video providers. So fortunately, the city of Eugene has a special counsel that they use out of DC. His name is Tim Lay, and he does this for jurisdictions around the country. And he had negotiated some language with Comcast for a county in Maryland that he shared with us, and we looked at and decided that it was something that we thought that we could agree to. So we provided that to Comcast within the last 2 months, and we come to agreement on some language for that competitive equity provision. We have some other issues that we still need to negotiate. We've extended the franchise till the end of 2024. So we have a little bit of time to see if we can figure out all these other issues, not all these other issues, a few other issues that we're still negotiating with them on, but we're hopeful that either we can get something nailed down so that we don't have to get another extension, or at least close enough that we could maybe get another year extension and feel confident that we could get something done in that period of time. So this was just informational, no action necessary from you all, but we wanted you to know that barrier has kind of been crossed at this point. So we're very, very happy about that.
Good deal. Now, would that have any future action toward the end of the year, or would that be no action at all?
Yeah. We would be coming back to you probably in the fall.
Okay.
To finish that stuff up.
Good deal. All right. Thank you.
Okay. And then finally, this last piece, is more of, again, it's just informational, but more for the city of Springfield and Lane County to let you know that the $150,000 that we set aside to purchase camera equipment and other equipment for the city of Eugene City Hall is now being used. So we had set for years, we had set aside this $150,000, and we just wanted to let the rest of the members realize that the city of Eugene is now saying, okay, we're spending this much money on the equipment and we need to be using that $150,000. So we
have Vanna Venice in her square displaying some of that over her left shoulder. So there you go.
Yeah, there we go. So that's all positive forward motion. So that's exciting. And I won't say for sure that the $150,000 is going to be adequate, but we're pretty sure it is, and that there might be some left over. And then we may come back to you to see if you just want to roll that into the next PEG grant cycle, or if there's something else, because that's something you'll have to tell us if there's extra where to put that. But we're thinking it would just be rolled over into the next PEG grant cycle. So that's all I have.
Super and duper job. And thank you very much. Appreciate that.
Thank you.
Okay, we're heading toward the end of the meeting. We have some next steps or agenda builds. I got a hand up from Councilor Moe. Is that, oh, he's down.
What I noticed on these items, action requested. Oh, wait a minute, no. Never mind.
Just the one.
Okay.
We did it.
Never mind. I'm sorry.
All right, we're good. All right, so we also don't have a meeting in July as what was said. Our next meeting is tentative for August 1st. And then obviously Brenda and I and Paul have some things to do for some bullet points for the JCT meeting. And I'm hoping that our, what do you call it? He's like the halfback coach, Randy Groves, with that voice of passion, could help us out on delivering that. That'd be awesome. So look, there's an award we're going to give for the end of the meeting. The best looking square of the Zoom goes to Councilor Steve Moe today. The votes are in. I just tallied those all up, just so you know. And I want to leave you with this thought. I know we're out of time, but I want to leave you with this thought. Leaders need to remember that the point of leading is not to cross the finish line first. It's to take people across the finish line with you. So I leave you with that thought. I appreciate all your leadership, and we will be in touch. Have a great summer, and thank you for all your time. This meeting's adjourned.